Meeting of the Shikellamy Board of Education scheduled for tonight, Thursday, December 4th to order. It's 7:08 p.m. I'm going to ask for a roll call. Mrs. Ziegler?
Mrs. Sanford? Here. Mrs. Garman? Yes. Mr. Garman?
Here.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Michaels?
Yes.
Mr. Stepp?
Here.
Dr. Walter?
Here.
Mrs. Weiss? Here. Dr. Hartman?
Present.
Ms. Homo? Ms. Murphy? Here. Ms. Carrasco?
Okay, thank you. We're down to item 2, which would be the adoption of the agenda for the reorganization meeting as published and posted. Do we have a motion by Mrs. Weiss to do that? Do I have a second? Mr. Stepp, thank you. Any questions, any discussion on the items for the reorganization meeting? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sanford? Yes. Mrs. Garman? Yes. Mr. Garman?
Yes.
Mr. Karpinski?
Yes.
Mr. Michaels?
Yes.
Mr. Stepp?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Mrs. Weiss? Yes. Dr. Hartman?
Yes. All right, for the ladies and gentlemen, citizens in attendance, this meeting is a different meeting than normally takes place. As mandated by law in Pennsylvania, there's a reorganization meeting. That's the active meeting that we have right now. The main purpose of this meeting is to, and the sole purpose really, is to elect officers for the coming year and to also establish a meeting schedule and to make various appointments. However, it is a separate public meeting. There is public comment. I want to make you aware that we will, at the conclusion of this meeting, we will have a second meeting, which will be our normal business meeting for the month of December. And that meeting would also follow the agenda as posted. At this time, I'm going to give everybody that submitted an opportunity, since we have a good turnout tonight, to speak here at the reorganization meeting, keeping in mind that the action item, if you've come here based on an item that's posted on our voting meeting agenda, that will not be taken care of under this meeting. It will be the next subsequent meeting. Does that make sense to basically everybody here, just so you're aware? All right, and again, I'm going to call on the individuals as posted here. I have Rick Dandies from the Daily Item. Before Rick steps to the podium, and he and I did have a brief discussion, I want to make you aware that this is, as our solicitor pointed out at the last meeting, this is a period for public comment. This is not a question and answer session. Therefore, you may make your statements. I will ask justice in previous meetings, and I will say we've had a number over the last 2 years that I've been president where we've had a good attendance. The citizens and the students that have come to the meeting, as well as employees, have been very courteous. They've stayed to the point, and we've been able to work and give everybody, with perhaps one rare exception, an opportunity to speak. So I asked everybody to please understand we have a fair number. I'll try to extend as much courtesy as possible in the spirit that I have conducted meetings here for the last 2 years, regardless of the issue. And I'm sure if you've attended previous meetings, you're aware that by and large, 99.9% of the speakers have cooperated and worked with us as a school board. But we are here to listen to your public comment, and we will take your public comment into consideration. If this is not a work session, we're not going to be doing questions and answers. My fellow directors are aware of that, and we're going to proceed. And Rick, I thank you for your patience. I announced you, and then I made you wait, so it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hartman. It's going to be a brief statement. And I just wanted to address the Ernie Jackson issue. I guess my statement is that I understand there's going to be a hearing, and I'm wondering, I believe I've been contacted at the paper. Why so long? Why not have this meeting a lot sooner rather than later? Next week rather than 30 days or 40 days from now? It's a question I'm just putting out there. I'm not going to answer it, but I believe that's on people's minds. And I think people in the district do want to hear the issues. And that's my statement.
Okay, thank you, Rick, and I appreciate it. And I'm sure all of us understand your question, and beyond that, we don't have any comment. Next I have is Sue Strauser, 820 Reagan Street, Sunbury.
All right, the last time I was here and spoke before you, I brought up some concerns about the readiness of the district in the event of a real emergency. And we were told by you, Mr. Hartman, or Dr. Hartman, that we do indeed have a comprehensive emergency plan in place and that the staff and teachers are well trained in how to respond. We were also told by you that there is and never was any confusion over an alleged policy by Kelly that stated that the administration was to be called if the police needed to be contacted. I have the police criminal complaint, and I'm going to read you a few passages. On Wednesday, the 5th, the police interviewed staff member at Beck Elementary School concerning her observations related to the incident on October 31st. At approximately 1400 hours, 2 p.m., she was standing in the area of North 6th and Orange Streets and directing traffic to ensure the safety of the students who were walking in the Halloween costume parade. The staff member alleged that another teacher approached her and asked if she observed a male dressed in a Ninja Turtle costume, and did she observe that what was in his pocket. The staff member stated that the other teacher advised her that a parent/citizen had approached her and stated that it appeared to be a gun in his pocket. The staff member stated that she did not observe the male on the bike, she did observe the male on the bike, and it appeared that a handle of a pistol/gun was sticking out of his right pocket. The staff member stated that an unknown parent sitting in a vehicle also observed the same thing and asked her if she was calling 911. That staff member stated that she did not have a cell phone and that her coworker immediately went to Beck to inform the school principal of the incident. At approximately 1400 hours, the police interviewed the second staff concerning the incident. The staff member stated that she was positioned at the 500 block of Orange Street during the Halloween costume parade when an unknown parent approached her and advised her of the male in the ninja costume had a gun. So we're clear that it's two parents reporting to two staff members the appearance of these teens with the weapons. At 14:30 hours, the office staff advised Mr. Jackson that there was kids in a costume with a gun outside. He observed the unknown males and went out front. Mr. Jackson alleged that he observed a gun in the pocket and alleged that the male started to go for the gun, so he took it out of his hand. Jackson stated that the Shikellamy School District Administration Office was contacted, and then so were the police 10 minutes later. So my question is, this police report clearly shows that two principals of two different buildings, in cooperation with staff members at those buildings, reported to police the existence of this policy to call administration before calling the police. So my question is, are the police lying? Is the administration lying? Or is this board lying to us? Because that is not at all what was reported to us at the last meeting. And the real issue here is how can we move forward and make sure we have a solid plan in place if we're not willing to look at the errors that were made? I have a copy of the police report if you'd like it.
I have a copy of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
No offense to Mocker.
Good evening, everyone. I extend my gratitude to the board for allowing me to speak here, and to the community for showing their support for me tonight. This is the third time my time speaking here, and I hope 3 times is the charm. I hope that this third time they'll realize that our problems just aren't going to go away by themselves. They have to take some action in order for there to be a difference. That being said, I'll try to keep this speech short, but hopefully effective. Mr. Jackson has made some mistakes, obviously. Errors in judgment have been brought to attention to us time and time again before he was indefinitely suspended. Defending that man is not why I'm here today, as I believe if you were not adequate for a job, then you should not have that job. He was ineffective. He was, put bluntly, part of the problem. But admittedly, he was only part of the problem that has been taken out of the equation. As stated before, Mrs. Weiss has shown an unfair standard for disciplinary issues, as some students seem to be getting a free pass, while others get the law fully enforced. She is ineffective. Of course, one might add that a part of the problem is gone already. Mr. Jackson, the man Mr. Kelly punished for reasons that are still not known to the public, but I'm sure will soon be revealed to us in time. After all, we have listed several reasons ourselves as to why he should have been relieved of his duty. But it is ironic, isn't it, that the man who punished Jackson, Mr. Kelly, just got back from a 20-day suspension himself. Even more so, it was just after Jackson had come forward about the policy for school administration to call IPAC before the police were notified. Something Mr. Hartman previously told us did not exist. As you have the police report, you also know all that Mrs. Strauser just told you. It specifically states that Beck Elementary Principal, Mrs. Giverson, is simply following procedure when calling IPAC before the police. So we ask ourselves, why is there this dissension? Even when I specifically asked you, Mr. Hartman, last meeting, you claimed it was all hearsay. Well, now it's in a police report that you have. This is not hearsay. The Shikellamy High School's mission statement is to challenge and excite learners. This can't be done with those disrupting the class not being taken out of the class. The handbook also states that in our student responsibilities that no student has the right to interfere with the education of fellow students, which is why we want those causing disruptions to be punished and not sent back from the office 10 minutes later with nothing to show for it. When I questioned Mrs. Weiss previously, several times, she claimed that every student has a right to an education. But how can they have an education if they're roaming the halls all day long? Teachers are reporting it and nothing is happening. In fact, as a responsibility of a student of Shikellamy to assist the school staff in operating a safe school for those enrolled and volunteer information in matters relating to the welfare of the school community, it is my responsibility to say the problem starts at the top with Mr. Kelly. It was his judgment to hire Mr. Jackson, who he has since indefinitely suspended. It was his policy to call IPAC before the police. A policy whose very existence is being denied right to our faces. Why? All the questions I have for you boil down to why. Why is the policy that everyone knows exists being denied to our faces? Why are we punishing Jackson for his errors, knowing this is the most reasonable option, but not also giving Mrs. Weiss and Mr. Kelly the same treatment? And why do I come here and spew out the same speech written slightly differently every time? Because nothing is being done. I fear Mr. Kelly may be a very manipulative person, and I fear he may have manipulated the board as well. You were left in the dark as much as we are half the time. He is as much a part of the problem as Mrs. Weiss or Jackson is. Now one last quote from our student handbook. The responsibility for good citizenship is placed squarely on the shoulders of each and every student. Think before you act. But this does not just apply to just students. This is on all of us gathered here tonight. People here showing support, and you, the Board of Education. So I leave you with my message that will hopefully remain with you in the coming days. Think before you act. Thank you for letting me speak here today.
The next person I have is Deb Betts.
I had come here before and had to ask questions, and you had said it wasn't a question and answer thing, so I came up with concerns, so it's rephrased for you. So I want to let you know what my concerns are. My concerns are we don't really know as a community who is in charge, who's making the decisions. Is it Mr. Kelly or is it our board? Does our superintendent really have the authority to hire and fire anyone? Or is that our board who's doing it? I just want us all to be aware of who's really saying and doing what, instead of the blame being put on whoever we think it may be. So that's one of my concerns. Another concern that I have is that teachers, principals, and superintendents are not all held to the same standards and rules as our children are in our schools. And by this I mean, I've heard on multiple accounts from children in the high school that there are teachers swearing at the children, calling the girls whores and sluts, saying shut the F up in class. This is inappropriate language for a teacher to speak. However, if our children say it, they're reprimanded for it. I also am concerned that if children are joking around and blocking doorways at a school, they would be reprimanded for it. However, we have teachers who are allowed to block entrances or exits from children, and there's no consequences to that. I'm concerned that there's any kind of consequence for a teacher to verbally or physically assault a child in school. My last thing that I'm concerned about has to do with Mr. Jackson. And I'm concerned about the 3 school board members who have claimed that they didn't know why he was suspended, but yet everybody else seems to have an idea. And I just kind of want to know, how do they not know why this man is suspended and why aren't we being told? That's a concern for me. If he's still not fired, then did he really have a reason to be suspended? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next request I have is from Jim Bell. Jim?
Yes, I am Jim Bell, and I have a different item on the agenda. It is the nomination of the replacement for me at head boys track and field coach, a position I held for 38 years. I am here in support of one of the 2 candidates for the head boys track and field position. David Evans has demonstrated clear knowledge of the scope of overall strategy across sprinting, mid-distance, distance, relays, shot put, discus, javelin, horizontal jumps, high jump, and pole vault. Track and field is a 5-ring circus with 18 varied events and 72 spots in the starting lineup. 72. David Evans developed his knowledge running on Shikellamy's team, Shikellamy High School, that's the Braves, for 4 years. And then coaching on our staff, Shikellamy High School's staff, for 6 years. I hope years of loyalty to Shikellamy School District count for something. The administration's nominee, Vicki Davis, had a very successful college distance running career, and I think she could be an excellent coach in that capacity, and I want to make it clear that I am not against her. But I think it would be in the best interest of the track and field program that she be offered the available assistance position on the girls' staff. In short, hiring David Evans as the head boys track and field coach and Vicki Davis as the assistant for girls track and field would be a win-win-win-win result. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board.
Betsy Peterson. Again, appreciate everybody today being on point, and let's keep it in that progression. Betsy, it's all yours.
Hi, I too am here to speak about Dave Evans and his knowledge and coaching expertise. My own son ran track for 3 of his 4 years in high school, my youngest, and Dave was his sprinting coach. He was a fantastic coach for all of the students. He's a great mentor to them, and I think that we should show our support to him and our loyalty to him for the 10 years of loyalty he gave to all of us. He did a fantastic job when Coach Bell was out last year on his leave as our interim head coach. And I think that the right thing to do is to reward him for the job well done. It is a very difficult sport to coach, and I think that in this instance, the right thing to do is to hire Dave as the head coach. I don't know Vicki Davis, I do know Dave, and I do know what he has done, and we've enjoyed a lot of success under his tutelage. And the right thing to do is to support Dave. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have listed is Kim Best.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. My name is Kimberly Best, and I'm an attorney at Best Law Offices here in Sunbury, and my firm represents Ernie Jackson. I'm not here tonight to talk about the case per se. I'm just here, and I left my family who's decorating the Christmas tree because I thought it was important that there's a lot of rumors, misinformation, misprinted information out there that are causing people to be concerned and upset. And I thought it was very important to address the board, to let them know a few things that I think are important. My office is not suing the school board. It's not. My office is not suing the school district for $5 million. In fact, my office, I'm not suing the school district at all. What we did do is file something in the Court of Common Pleas to ask a court to require Mr. Kelly to bring charges formally to Mr. Jackson and bring Mr. Jackson before the board. I respect what you do. I've been involved with public service, and I'm really just wanting his due process rights. And what we want is for the board to decide ultimately what to do, and I, for one, would respect that. Either way, that's the process. I'm an attorney, and it's the process that I stand behind. And I firmly believe right now that Mr. Jackson's due process rights are being violated illegally. Another thing that I want people to understand is that I love this district. I graduated from Shikellamy High School. I'm very proud of kids like, I don't know your name, Noah, that stand up here and talk on behalf of his school out of concern, and he was very articulate, and it makes me very proud. I'm not here to make an enemy out of anyone on the board or any resident. I'm simply here to represent Mr. Jackson and his due process rights. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Board, for hearing me. I will keep it very brief and 2 comments and concerns. 5 points that I'd like to make. Again, my name is Brian Betts. I am a resident of this community. I've had 2 children that have graduated through the system, done very well, onward to college. I have 2 children that are currently in the system in the school district. My first point here that I would like to make is a concern of our teachers, principals, and superintendents are responsible for the safety and the well-being of all students while in or at or around school property. Is this true? No appointed or hired teacher, principal, or superintendent can hire, fire, suspend an employed school district employee. I believe that this is done by the board, the hire and the lastly to fire. Third, teachers and employees of the district should be held accountable to the same standards requiring the use of profanity, name-calling, bullying. Equality of punishment for all students should follow if they are to found in that guilty verdict. Procedural and protocol are essential to follow by the district employees when injury or endangerment to students has occurred. You know, what I've heard tonight resonates with the same comments that Noah, who eloquently dissected the entire issues that are at hand here. There is some major concerns within this school district, and I, for one, am here tonight to express my feelings for more than just my feelings, I am sure. And I appreciate those who are here also to come to understand answers and questions that later at a point in time can be answered by you board members. The problems to be solved by the board members, and come together again as a community for the district and the betterment of the school. That's it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Larry Wary.
Good evening. My name is Larry Wary. Some of you know me. I'm a longtime resident, and I'm a graduate of Shikellamy, and went to the Air Force, and I came back and been here 20 years as a resident. I'm here to speak tonight for, I think an injustice is being done on the agenda item in the hiring of, well, in the not hiring of Coach Dave Evans. Some of you know Ryan Wary is my son. He's my oldest son. He, with the tutelage of Coach Evans, he won 7 district gold medals in his junior and senior year out of a possible 8. He has a few silvers all the way. But working with Coach Evans for 4 years, Ryan succeeded quite well. And I appreciate everything that Dave did in the process. Extra time. I have a 16-year-old son who's a junior right now who is following in his brother's footsteps. Cale has been working since before football ended. He's not a football player, but Dave assisted with powerlifting and things like that with the football. And then after practice, he would meet with my son in the weight room and start working with him. And this is on his own time. He works with Cale and maybe some others 3 days a week, after school and weightlifting.
Mr. Wary, will you please conclude as quickly as possible?
Well, sure. I thought everybody had the same amount of time, and I was cut off.
I didn't mention the same amount of time.
What I am asking for, Dr. Hartman, is that you do not take any movement on this agenda item today, that you, as a board, take time to reveal, to investigate why Coach Evans was not selected. I ask you to table it and put it back on. It's not going to hurt to wait for a decision on the head boys coach for another few weeks. It needs to be looked at. The gentleman has the credentials. I am also a rostered, for the last 3 years, rostered volunteer track coach for hurdles. So I have worked with Dave quite a long time. I do think there is an injustice here. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Larry, I appreciate your consideration. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to announce that the board will convene for an executive session to address personnel and legal matters. We will return when we're concluded, and we will pick up the agenda at the reorganization of election of officers. For the record, we'll note that it's 7:38 p.m. Thank you.
Cut down.